Up in Joshua 5. Eventually here, I wanted to mention that of course, when Joseph was down in Egypt, he brought his father and his brethren down there to take care of them during 7 years of famine. And they ended up staying there and multiplied and produced and took over a particular portion of the city and grew and prospered there. And so practically the entire nation of Israel was now in Egypt. And eventually they became disliked and persecuted, and they became a group that was put under state servitude. They became a state slavery rather than individual slaves. They were slaves of the state and were given the worst jobs and persecuted by Pharaoh. So it was time for them to come out of Egypt. It was time for them to go back to the land that God had given Abraham, which was in Canaan and inhabited by 30 to 35 different city-states who were of different peoples, who were in a group called the Canaanites. And so you know the story. Moses went there, let my people go, and Pharaoh was very stubborn, and 10 plagues were sent against Egypt. And in those 10 plagues, these were plagues that directly corresponded to 10 of the biggest idols that Egypt worshipped. These were supposed to be things that their gods controlled. But of course, God came in and they couldn't control them. So people would turn to their idol, try to get a handle on some of these plagues, and there was no control to be gotten from their gods. Their gods were useless. And the plagues raged on. And so this was God discrediting their religious idols and their idolatry. And finally, the Egyptian Pharaoh let the people go. They could have taken, but God led them on the route that ended up putting their backs to the sea. It was an impossible way. He could have taken them a different route, but he took them in a way that was impossible, a way that would require divine intervention if they were going to succeed. And that can happen in your life as well as mine. God puts us in places where it's going to require divine intervention to get out of this. And it could have happened a different way, but it didn't. God wanted it to be this way so that we would trust him and we would see the salvation of the Lord in his deliverance for